everybody. This is my monthly review of the Maricopa County Attorney's Office, Civic Alerts, latest news, things that happen in the month of November, fighting crimes of all kinds. That's what Rachel Mitchell does, and her staff, and all the investigators involved with Maricopa County and law enforcement. So remember, from this covering the rest of the stream, a criminal charge is merely an accusation, and the defendant is presumed innocent until and unless proven guilty. So some of these that I'm going to tell you it's applicable. Others, they've been sentenced. We'll see what we have, right? So let me start off with something that came out back in September from the Maricopa County Attorney's Office, which is MCAO is one of the largest public prosecutorial agencies in the nation, serving 4.5 million residents in the fourth largest county in the U.S., United States of America. In addition to handling felony prosecutions in Maricopa County and misdemeanor filings in the county's justice court system, the office also provides civil legal services to Maricopa County agencies. MCAO is comprised of more than 1,000 full-time employees, including attorneys, investigators, paralegals, victim advocates, and support staff. So I just want to bring that to your attention once again to let you know how large Maricopa County is and how they can focus on so many crimes and still get the job done. So going on to November 3rd, which was the first posting in November, entitled Road Rage Shooter Indicted. Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell announced today that Rudy Sanchez Jr. has been indicted for a road rage shooting in Peoria. On October 11th, Sanchez Jr. shot a woman in the leg in the car next to him near Peoria Avenue and the Loop 101. He drove off but was arrested a few days later. A grand jury indicted Sanchez Jr. on the following charges: 1 count of drive-by shooting, a Class 2 dangerous felony; 1 count of discharge of a firearm at a structure, a Class 3 dangerous felony; 1 count of aggravated assault, a Class 3 dangerous felony; 1 count of aggravated assault, a Class 4 dangerous felony; 1 count of unlawful discharge of a firearm, a Class 6 dangerous felony. Sanchez Jr. is currently being held on a $250,000 cash bond, which means he must pay the court the full amount in cash to be released. Trial is currently set for February 26, 2026. And as I stated, a criminal charge is merely an accusation, and the defendant is presumed innocent until and unless proven guilty. So that's a road rage incident. So you can see fighting crimes of all kinds is applicable. On November 6th, Laura Owens indicted on additional felony charges. Dun, 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 dun. Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell has announced the indictment of Laura Michelle Owens on felony charges related to a false claim of pregnancy involving a second victim. In 2021, the victim began dating Laura Owens, but after the third date, he decided not to continue the relationship. Owens then claimed to be pregnant by him. MCAO investigators found evidence that Owens falsified documents to bolster this claim. On Tuesday, Owens was indicted on the following felony charges: 1 count for perjury, a Class 4 felony; 1 count of fraudulent schemes and artifices, a Class 2 felony; 2 counts of taking the identity of another, a Class 4 felony; 2 counts of forgery, a Class 4 felony; and 1 count of theft by accused of crime, a Class 4 felony. These charges are in addition to those involving victim Clayton Eckert. Trial in the Eckert case is set for January 2026. So, as you know, that would equate for Ms. Owens 14 indictments total. Not to speak of what the investigators may still uncover until the actual trial takes place. And as you know, I've been covering this, as many others have in the YouTube world, content creators and individual journalists, as well as mainstream news, that her law firm had requested to be released from representing her. She then requested a public defender on November 18th, and Judge Reeder had scheduled a status hearing for tomorrow, December 2nd, 2025, downtown Phoenix. So I'll plan to attend, and I will bring updates from that hearing tomorrow. I do have some insight for later this afternoon. I have a second stream, and it's about the LO and DG cases. So I wanted to let you know that'll be 4 p.m. Monster Standard Time. But to continue on here, our next latest news from MCAO was posted on November 7th, one day later. Domestic abuser sentenced to life in prison for murder. Estranged boyfriend murdered pregnant girlfriend and her roommate before fleeing to Mexico with their children. Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell announced today that Dimas Coronado Shafino has been sentenced to life in prison for the 2018 murders of his estranged girlfriend, Oralia Nunez, and her roommate, Omar Gonzalez, as well as the kidnapping of the estranged couple's 2 young sons. In September 2018, Phoenix police responded to a call of unknown trouble at a residence near West Van Buren Street and 35th Avenue. Officers found Oralia Nunez near the front door with critical injuries. She was transported to a hospital where she was pronounced deceased. Medical staff later determined she was 24 weeks pregnant at the time of her death. Inside a back bedroom, officers located a second victim, Omar Gonzalez, who had sustained severe head and neck trauma. Both victims had been shot multiple times. At the time of the murders, officers were familiar with the residence due to repeated calls involving order of protection violations and threats made by Shafino against Nunez. Investigators learned that Shafino had repeatedly threatened to kill his estranged wife through messages, statements over social media. A valid order of protection was in place to prevent him from contacting her or their children or going to Nunez's home. Following the murders, investigators discovered that Shafino had kidnapped the couple's 2 young sons and fled to Mexico. Mexican authorities confirmed his vehicle crossed the border within hours of the murders. After an extensive search, Coronado Shafino was located, arrested, and extradited to Arizona to face prosecution. The children were also located and are safe and with family in Mexico. Shafino was found guilty of the following charges: 3 counts of first-degree murder, a Class 1 felony, 2 counts of kidnapping, a Class 2 felony, 1 count of burglary in the first degree, a Class 2 felony, 1 count of interfering with judicial proceedings, a Class 1 misdemeanor. Remember, the smaller the number of felony is, the more egregious. Domestic violence is one of the most dangerous and devastating crimes we see, said County Attorney Rachel Mitchell. This case shows the tragic cost when threats escalate and victims are not safe in their own homes. 2 lives and an unborn child were stolen, leaving 2 young boys to forever live with that loss. This sentence ensures justice is served, but our community must continue to do everything possible to protect families from this kind of violence. Life imprisonment for 3 lives. I'd have tripled it personally. Hey, Kingbone. The next news alert was November 20th. Accused serial rapist indicted in new charges. Charges filed after 2 new victims came forward. Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell announced today that Alex Bengash has been indicted on charges related to the sexual assaults of 2 new victims. The first woman said Bengash sexually assaulted her at a park in Gilbert in December 2022. The second woman said Bengash sexually assaulted her in July 2023 at his home in Tempe. A grand jury indicted Bagash on 7 new counts: 2 counts of kidnapping, a Class 2 felony, 3 counts of sexual assault, a Class 2 felony, 2 counts of aggravated assault, a Class 6 felony. Bagash was previously indicted in connection with the sexual assaults of 5 other women. Those charges are as follows: 2 counts of sexual assault, a Class 2 felony domestic violence, 4 counts of sexual assault, a Class 2 felony, 1 count of kidnapping, a Class 2 felony, 1 count of aggravated assault, a Class 3 dangerous felony, 3 counts of aggravated assault, a Class 4 felony domestic violence, 1 count of stalking, a Class 5 felony, 2 counts of sexual abuse, a Class 5 felony, 5 counts of assault, a Class 1 misdemeanor, and 1 count of use of electronic communications to terrify, intimidate, threaten, or harass, a Class 1 misdemeanor. 2 counts of threatening or intimidating, a Class 1 misdemeanor. Bagash is also charged in a separate case with 1 count of interference with monitoring devices, a Class 4 felony, for cutting off his ankle monitor and fleeing the state. He is currently being held on non-bondable. So this fool, Alex Bagash, needs to be stopped, right? Charging him is great, but we need to get him in court, in front of a jury, provide all the evidence and discovery, and pray for a guilty plea. If all of this is alleged at this point, but if it's all comes to fruition, he needs to spend a lot of time in prison to be away from victims, which are my fellow citizens, male and female. I don't trust him, in my opinion. November 21st, 1 day later, killer sentence in teen girl's cold murder. Sergio Reyes was found hiding in Mexico years after her death. Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell announced today that Sergio Reyes has been sentenced to 20 years in prison for the murder of a 15-year-old Elena Lazuel Reyes, who was 17 at the time of the crime, pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, a Class 1 dangerous felony. In July 2024, witnesses saw Elena and a boy go into her bedroom and shut the door. It was the last time they saw her alive. Elena's brother and friends found her body in her bedroom the next night. An autopsy confirmed she died from strangulation and blunt force trauma to the head. In 2013, detectives with the Phoenix Police Department were able to use familial DNA, like family DNA, to link Reyes to the crime. Exactly 20 years to the day after Elena was found dead, Reyes was extradited from Mexico to Maricopa County. Hey, Nikki. This case highlights the tireless efforts of Phoenix police detectives and MCAO prosecutors who never gave up the pursuit of justice for Elena and her family, said County Attorney Rachel Mitchell. This defendant tried to run and hide, but in Maricopa County, the truth will catch up to you, and so will law enforcement. Remember, this was back originally 20 years ago plus. So as far as MCAO goes, they weren't letting it go. The investigators, the law enforcement, prosecutors, they were following up on this. So you can imagine, with being a 4.5 million populace in Maricopa County, they still made time to follow this case. And hopefully it comes to fruition since he was sentenced. The next news alert came on November 25th. Life in prison for defendant in Hells Angels gang motivated murder. Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell announced the sentencing of Keith McCullough to natural life in prison following his conviction for first-degree murder, first-degree burglary, and a gang motivation sentencing enhancement in the December 2021 killing of Richard Ricky Koss in Phoenix. McCullough, a documented member of the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, joined armed associates in forcibly entering an apartment near 23rd Avenue and West Rose Garden Lane after a confrontation earlier that evening. The group, masked and armed, confronted the occupants inside. During the violent encounter, Koss was fatally shot through the heart. DNA and physical evidence linked McCullough directly to the scene. At witness testimony, let me repeat that. Koss was fatally shot through the heart. DNA and physical evidence linked McCullough directly to the scene, and witness testimony confirmed the attack was carried out in retaliation under the banner of the Hells Angels. Throughout the investigation and trial, witnesses faced intimidation and pressure from the motorcycle club. Despite these threats, victims and witnesses came forward, cooperated with law enforcement, and courageously testified in court. Their strength and integrity were critical in securing justice and ensuring accountability for this gang-driven murder. The Hells Angels wanted to rule through fear, said Maricopa County Attorney Rachel Mitchell. In Maricopa County, we do not bow to intimidation or outlaw motorcycle gangs. This sentence sends a clear message that organized criminal violence will be met with organized justice. I am proud of the prosecutors, detectives, and especially the witnesses who stood strong against a culture of fear and helped bring the truth to light. The case was investigated by the Phoenix Police Department with expert testimony assistance from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, ATF, and the Arizona Department of Public Safety. 2 co-defendants previously pled guilty. Jimmy Lee Esslinger is serving 16 years in prison, and Carl Blazek is serving 10.5 years in prison for their roles in the murder. So at least they're getting punished for what they've been found guilty of. And it's a good feeling to me living here that I don't have to deal with people like this, and these people specifically based on what their crimes are. Nikki, I see your post there. Sorry. I've scheduled a few out just to cover myself for the holiday week and going into this week because I had 2 planned for today. I have to do this monthly one. Later today, I'll be doing a pre-stream for tomorrow's events with the court cases. And then tomorrow will be the follow-up 2 streams based on the court cases. So just to explain to you why there's so many. And hopefully, I'm so glad you made it, though. Don't get me wrong. But that's what this stream is about, is my monthly review of the Maricopa County in Arizona as far as the news alerts on what's been going on in the crime world. And I've titled it the Fighting Crimes of All Kinds. And yes, we already covered the Laura Owens. She was the second one on the list. Speaking about the 7 additional indictments. Oops. I want to switch slides. There we go. So that was the last one that was sent that I received, and I checked the website over the holiday weekend to make sure I had them all. November, a lot else has happened going on, and I suspect we'll see some more activity in December, especially around the holidays. Very concerned about driving under the influence and the injuries and the unaliving that could occur during the holidays. So I'm hoping that everybody's going to be extra careful, and I'll keep pulling these stories as they come to light. But come the beginning of January, I hope it's a short list, not a long list, but I have to report on what comes up. So hopefully here in Maricopa County and around the nation that we're all watching out for each other and following the guidelines and rules of just watching out and not letting anyone drive under the influence, and drive safely to everyone else. So I think I covered everything I wanted to. Again, I have a stream later today in a couple hours, and that one's going to be the pre-streams for the Laura Owens and David Gingras cases that are for tomorrow. I've been checking the docket, and I have ran down this morning to get one document. I'll share that. And I've been waiting for another one, but I haven't seen it hit yet. So I'll keep monitoring up until the stream. So with that said, I thank you all for attending. I appreciate it very much. And if you have any comments, please add them to the comments. And if you like what I provided, please subscribe and I'll keep it going. Thank you so much for your time. Y'all take care. See you later.